The opening bell
Thanks,
has
Stu.
rung, and the market is almost open. Yeah, it's open. Away we go. Right from the top, we've got the initial read. The Dow is down 950 points. That is 2.3%. That's in the first few seconds of business. At the Dow 30, I see two winners, one unchanged, although maybe it's not open yet, and the rest are down. They're losers. The S&P 500 down 2.4%, a similar loss to the Dow. And the Nasdaq, though, again, a bigger loss than the other indicators. You're down 3% there, 500 points. Big tech down across the board. Google's down 1.4%. Microsoft down almost 2%. Apple, look at that, back to 195. Meta is down 5%, and Amazon is down 6.3%. The chip makers, I believe that, yeah, they're way down this morning. Yes, they are. But Taylor, I thought semiconductors were excluded from tariffs.
They are. So that's why you had a lot of people yesterday saying, this is great, I can buy NVIDIA and TSMC. I think the problem or some of the worries this morning was the retaliation from China with a 34% tariff. How much companies like Micron, Qualcomm, Broadcom, even SMCI have exposure to revenue from China? How does that start to impact their business? That's, I think, where some of this uncertainty comes in.
We were talking with Mark Mahaney a moment ago about the $1 trillion that the Mag 7 stocks lost just yesterday alone in market value. Let's have a look at it again now. Yeah, down again. I don't know how much that wipes out, but it's not $1 trillion, not quite.
No, but maybe another negative day. And I think Mark was spot on. Everything I'm reading this morning is the impact of now the shift to the de minimis rule, particularly with Amazon, where now tariffs are included on goods under $800, and typically we had not seen that. And so, again, this is this new Trump administration that is saying we are not allowing loopholes at this moment. And so Amazon certainly down 5.5% this morning on more of that news.
The Dow is now down 10% from its high of December the 4th. That means it's in correction territory. The Nasdaq is actually in bear market territory. That's how far down we've gone. Show me Apple, please. They had their worst day in over 5 years yesterday. They're down another 3.5% today. Ouch.
Yeah, so Apple is an interesting story. Yesterday, at one point, on a percentage basis, the worst day since March of 2020 in the depths of COVID and wiping out $300 billion in market cap, which at one point was the worst ever that they've seen in terms of a wipeout. This also is a fundamental story. If you think about 90% or more of the phones are made in China, 50% iMacs, 75 to 80% iPads. So again, this is a company that is so embedded there. To their credit, they had tried to move some of their supply chains to Vietnam and Thailand, but now those countries are no longer exempt.
Yeah, that's right. Chinese companies, I presume they are down today. Yes, they are across the board.
Who needs who more, Stu? Who's going to blink, right? So that's the question, is China and the U.S., given that we are the world's consumer, we import and consume $20 trillion of goods per year, a lot of that from China, and buying the crap or the good stuff maybe that these people sell. So again, who needs who more? If you have these big companies that are exporting to us, if their costs are going up, if we're not going to eat the tax, again, how does all of this play out? I will say Trump just responding and saying China is playing it wrong. They've panicked. They're doing the one thing they can't afford to do. So we'll have to see how this
from Trump, just said that. Okay.
On Truth Social.
You know, we're having the same conversation that we had at this time yesterday.
We are.
All these sectors, they're all down. Okay, go through the big banks. They're down again as well.
Yeah, you know, and this is a very broad-based story. We talked yesterday, the markets shoot first, ask questions later. But when you have more and more people like Goldman Sachs and now JP Morgan coming out and saying that the odds of a recession are a lot higher today than they were yesterday, how does that impact the big banks that lend to consumers, that do those auto loans, that do those mortgage loans? Are we starting to will we see a rise in delinquency rates on credit cards? Again, I am speculating way out into the future, but that's sort of the question the markets are pondering today. How does the recession impact the banks, a la the consumer?
Well, okay, those are the big name banks. Now show me the regionals.
Similar
they're all down again.
Story. And you know, from the regional banking crisis blow up that we had a few years ago, regional banks are so exposed in many parts to the mortgage market. So again, shooting first, asking questions later. How are we thinking about exposure to a consumer who now might be even stretched even more?
I got another sector which is down just like yesterday.
Is it?
Credit cards.
Yeah.
What do we got?
I wish I had more news for you. This is the same story. Are you still spending? Are you on that Visa? Are you swiping that MasterCard? Are you spending on that Amex?
Wealthy
are you canceling
people.
trips?
You got to look at wealthy people.
They are. Now, there was that Wall
they're
Street
gonna
Journal
spend.
report where the top 10% of wealthy people are making up 50% of spending.
Right.
What if that top 10% starts to pull back? Again, I'm speculating.
Well,
We
with
have
the
no
market
data
down
to
so
say
much,
so.
I mean, that's the wealth effect. They can't fall
is.
back on a couple of $1 million worth of stocks.
Right. Well, and if I have all that money in the market to pay for my down payment on that new home, and now that money's gone, how does that sort of impact the economy?
Yeah, how does that affect it? One more time, show me the retailers, please. Really taking it on the chin.
Another day,
Again.
yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, and these are the big companies we've talked about with big exposure to China. Nike, one of those. Crocs, one of those. Foot Locker, one of those. Now, what's interesting is Nike and Foot Locker also have some big fundamental stories. These are companies in the midst of big turnarounds. We've heard from Nike, where's the new fun product? We haven't seen it. And then this on top of that, right? And so there's the fundamental stories of some of these companies, and then there's that broader, oh my gosh, you have exposure to Asia, supply chain, sell now.
I mean, it's not panic here, is it?
It's not. I mean, I want to play REM. It's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine because this is 2 days. We're talking about 2 days of sell-off, not erasing 2 years of gains. I think we need to worry about if we're sitting here next Friday and we're seeing the same red ink. But the thing is, you bring up even Apple, worst day almost on record. And I love Apple. I've been in Apple since a price adjusted like $41 a share. I'm not jumping in to buy here. I don't think it's compelling enough because of the valuations. They got stretched. We're having a reset now. I mean, Mark said it best. When you can buy quality names at about 12 to 15 times earnings, that's when you back up the truck. We're not there yet. We're getting close, but we're not there yet.
One last group, the automakers, I presume they're down again?
Yeah, maybe a little bit less so than yesterday. Ford, okay, we're only down 3%. GM, Stellantis. And this is interesting because we heard from GM yesterday that they were increasing truck production in the U.S. I think it was the Indiana plant. Stellantis, I think it was the one, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, had said that we're working on idling some of the plants in Mexico and Canada as we try to reorient and figure out. So again, I think these are companies that we're hearing from that are trying to navigate through this period of uncertainty. Investors are trying to figure out, again, do they wake up and is there a 10 to 15% earnings cut wipeout this year? Is there not? What are the new valuations of these companies worth if there is a bigger hit to earnings than we thought 2 days ago?
Tesla down 5%. Look at that. One last one. GE Healthcare. GE Healthcare. Is that a special situation?
It is. So this is very interesting. So Beijing had also announced that they were doing some export controls on medium and heavy rare earth minerals, namely gadolinium. Gadolinium is used as the contrast agent that helps improve the clarity of MRI scans. GE Healthcare makes MRI scans. Within their imaging segment, that's 46% of their revenue last year through MRIs. So this is actually a very idiosyncratic story about how then can you still go forward and for how long with MRIs?
But it's dramatic nonetheless. And that's a tariff result right there.